As the teams gathered for round 4, there was no discernible enthusiasm for the Monaco Grand Prix, coming as it did on the heels of that sickening Imola weekend. The sport needed a strong pick-me-up. Fate, however, decreed otherwise. During Thursday's opening practice session, Cole Vendinger lost control of his Sauber at the exit of the tunnel and slammed into the barrier at the approach of the chicane. Mercifully, he would survive the injury and later make a return to racing.
Thank you, Steve. I'm Bob Varsha, along with David Hobbs. Steve Matchett joins us now in the announced position as we review the 1994 Grand Prix of Monaco here on Formula One Decade. The front row of the starting grid was left empty, the street painted with the flags of Brazil in honor of the late Ayrton Senna and Austria in honor of Roland Ratzenberger. How young everyone looked just 10 short years ago. Here's a look at the starting grid. Michael Schumacher's first career pole in his glittering career, starting alongside Mika Hakkinen in the McLaren Peugeot.
There's the field lining up in that familiar curve. Not exactly the front straight at Monte Carlo. Damon Hill makes a blinding start there from 4th spot.
Oh, it gets into the back of Mika Hakkinen.
First corner, they all funnel straight down into that Sanderbach corner. Bunch up, concertina up, and it's almost invariably.
Cars dipping out of line, looking for an opportunity.
Down to the Tabac. Up to the swimming pool section.
Watch how close they get to the walls. Damon Hill slowing to a stop. You ride with Michael Schumacher, the race leader.
Who'd already had, of course, 3 tremendous races.
Michael Schumacher already coming up to lap his teammate.
Poor old JJ Leto. And there's the move, of course. Leto has always got to move over for his teammate. Leto's really his first start for the team. Remember, at that awful San Marino Grand Prix, his race was ended as he stood on the grid when the Lotus slammed into the back of the chassis. So this first race for the team.
For those of you unfamiliar with our Formula One coverage here on Speed Channel, Steve Matchett will talk about "we" in reference to the Benetton team here on F1 Decade, because of course he was a part of the team supporting Michael Schumacher in 1994.
Albeit a very small part, of course.
Just can't let an opportunity go by. Oh. Jean-Paul Belmondo off to the left there, letting everyone through.
Very tight hairpin there.
It is unbelievably tight, isn't it?
The steering geometry of all the cars, and to this day, they all have to be modified for that corner, especially for this race.
Just can't get around it.
It's impossible to get the steering lock. That corner is unique in the world of Formula One motorsport. The steering geometry and the wings have been modified to give sufficient lock on the front of the car to get the cars to go around.
One final note on the Pacific team. I'm sure we won't see much more of Mr. Belmondo, but that team was organized by Keith Wiggins, currently co-owner and team manager at Erdez Competition in the Champ Car Series, a team that's had a lot of success.
Well, Keith Wiggins always had great aspirations in the Formula One. Really, he just couldn't quite hack it, couldn't get the money together. I think he had the ability and the drive, but just couldn't quite ever get the real money together.
Olivier Beretta up ahead in the LaRousse.
These are fantastic onboard shots. I love it.
Schumacher trying to weave his way through the field here, lapping people.
Now, at this point, Olivier Beretta, in those brief microseconds when he can actually look in his mirrors, probably thinks that the car behind him is in fact JJ Leto battling with him for position, when in fact it's the race leader Michael Schumacher trying to put him a lap down.
Yeah, and he's definitely blocking there. I mean, he certainly is trying to keep him at bay. Obviously does not realize.
There's Leto behind his teammate. Schumacher trying every way to get by. They head down to the Virage du Poitiers.
But we don't see any blue flags, which of course the marshals are supposed to be showing to the drivers. They probably think it's JJ Leto as well.
Down the inside, Schumacher forces the issue. Poor Beretta looks at his mirror and says, oh no, there's another one of those Benettons. What's going on?
Belmondo doing an awful lot of weaving around there. I mean, Beretta doing an awful lot of weaving around there, trying to keep JJ at bay now.
Off to the right there, see those trailers parked? That is the television, or was the television compound at Monaco, built out over the harbor, and the quarters could not be closer. Barrichello moves over for his future teammate. 5-foot deep bus stop, if you will. The teams have to haul all of their equipment up into those little cabines. In the event of an emergency, say a fire breaks out, there's nowhere to go to the right through the back of the garages. Michael Schumacher, the leader, circling the famous Rescas restaurant in Monte Carlo.
We're certainly not going to drive out.
Ooh,
Smoke ahead.
Big smoke ahead.
Blown engine. Oh, and the race leader almost gets to the wall.
Well, Michael was very lucky there.
Yeah, he was lucky. First on the scene. Always a gamble in a race. You never know. But he got away with it.
Here on F1 Decade, Michael Schumacher is the race leader, and here's a look at some fairly primitive-looking telemetry.
Bottom one, I can't even work out what it is. It's acceleration. It's a percentage. I suppose that means 100% of acceleration, whatever 100% is.
Well, remember, the cars were all fly-by-wire throttle at this stage. There was no throttle cable, so the potentiometer that was feeding the signals back to the microprocessor controlling the engine could monitor the throttle position from fully closed to fully open. So what we're seeing there is full throttle now at 100% and then backing off. Revs lifting up a little bit there. I mean, most of that is just due to the tyre contact with the tarmac.
Yeah. I hope we watch it as it goes down towards Mirabeau as they go over that cross street.
There we've got gear selection on the right as well in the little green circle 4-5.
Down to Mirabeau there.
On the streets of the Principality of Monaco. The most amazing place on earth. You can walk around it in the space of an hour or so.
Oh, that tunnel is just,
yeah.
It still gives me goosebumps when I watch them go through there because it's so blind and it's the fastest part of the track.
Just the difference in ambient light from the artificial lights. Did you ever do that, David? Did you ever quit because you were tired?
I did actually once at Elkhart Lake. I didn't quit because I was tired. I quit with heat exhaustion in a Can-Am car.
Well, in all honesty, I have to say, if the driver does feel too tired to carry on, you have to stop and get out. Because
we had a problem with the air from the radiator. Was through the swimming pool section. Boy, it is tight through there, isn't it?
It is. Yeah,
and
really.
of course, you can't see anything from that height. You know, where your head is, you can't see anything around those corners. And there's Jack Hicks, 6-time winner of the Le Mans 24-hour race and a Grand Prix winner.
Long-time chief steward in Monte Carlo. Michael Schumacher scored his first ever Formula One Grand Prix pole in this race. And at this point, as we begin the final lap, he threatens to complete the grand slam of pole, fast lap, leading every lap, and winning the race for the first time in his career.
Well, we were pretty chuffed at this point, I have to tell you. I mean, it was very tenterhooks whether or not the car had finished. Remember last year, 93 with a fully active B193 car. Michael looked pretty good to win that race until one of the actuators let go. I think it was the left rear actuator. And the hydraulics burst into flames and he was out of the race. But this was it. Remember, Benetton Formula had never, up until this point, put their name to a Monaco win. And it was on the card right now.
Well, they only got half a lap to go, so he must have been extremely excited.
Oh, boy.
Tension running high, too, I would imagine.
Yeah, you can see all those
Steve Matchett in that picture.
The young Steve Matchett.
All right.
I saw a young Ross Brawn a few moments ago, too. Couldn't hardly recognize him.
He's been anything but fit. Off the final corner, on to the front stretch. Under the checkered flag comes Michael Schumacher, winner for the very first time in the Grand Prix of Monaco. Here's a look at the results. Michael Schumacher picks up his first career victory in the race, as Steve Matchett said, that every Formula One driver and team wants to win. Brundle second, Berger third, and a great run for Andrea de Cesaris, bringing the Jordan home fourth. Mark Blundell's car break. His teammate Ukio Katayama stopped just one lap later with a similar problem. There's Flavio Briatore, who announced on this weekend that in addition to running the Benetton team, he was purchasing the Ligier team to take over that operation. And as always, no one happier about winning a Formula One race than Michael Schumacher.
Flavio looks pretty chuffed too, I must say.
4 race victories in a row to start the season for that man, Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, first win at Monte Carlo, of course, his 6th win by that stage.
Look how young he looks as he heads for the podium to meet Prince Renier and his family.
I enjoyed it very much, especially here is more or less my home. I'm living here, and to have the victory here means quite a lot to me.
All in all, a great day after some very tough times on the Formula One circuit.